So I'm finally back with a Farm Friday video. It's been a couple of weeks since I did one, and there's a very good reason for that. I've talked about this several times and I'm so excited to finally be showing you my lambing experience video. I did narrate the whole experience while I was there, but we were playing music on the radio in the background and I didn't realise that it would be very audible in the recording. I can't play that back to you as a result because there are copyright laws on using popular music in YouTube videos, so I've had to voice over later. I had this opportunity because one of my friends from school is a farmer, and every time I've seen him in the last few months I've questioned him mercilessly about farming, so he's obviously figured out that I'm quite interested in it. He called me unexpectedly one day and asked if I'd like to come and help out with lambing, and I couldn't say yes fast enough. The whole process is so much more complicated than I ever imagined it would be. What you can see right now are 3 lines of lambing pens, and in each of these pens is a single ewe with her babies. In the majority of these pens the babies are the ewes, but there are some that have been adopted onto other ewes. So there have been a lot of triplets born this year. I think it's a nationwide thing, I'm not entirely sure why. And sheep only have 2 teats, so they can only effectively feed 2 lambs at a time. This one here is my favourite one, she had the cutest face and she had triplets. Anyway, when a sheep has got triplets, generally they tend to take one of them away and then either adopt them onto another sheep or they get taken home to be hand-reared. This farm does about 1,000 ewes a year and they split it into 2 lambing periods. So the first one is at Christmas when about 500 have them, and the second is in April, late March, when the next 500 have them. While I was here there were 480 ewes that were pregnant and ready to have babies. What you can see here are all of the ewes in the shed waiting to give birth. You can see there in the middle of the screen is one that's just given birth in the shed. So they have their babies in the shed and then they get moved on to the lambing pen. Normally they would have been scanned, so the farmer would know exactly how many lambs was in each ewe, but unfortunately this year the scanner was busy when they tried to book him, so they don't actually know what they're expecting. Which made it quite complicated because you didn't know if once a ewe had had 1 lamb it was done, or if there were another 1, 2 or 3 to come. We did have a few quads while I was here. Basically you just walk around the shed regularly throughout the day and you just double check to see whether there's anybody who's currently lambing, whether there are any lambs out in the shed ready to come into an individual pen with mum, and just to check that everything's okay. You generally make sure that if a ewe has been lambing for a long time that there's nothing wrong. At the same time as the lambing there was also basic animal care to be getting on with. So here they've just all been given some haylage, which is basically just grass that's been sweetened and fermented with a little bit of molasses for energy. And you can see their water buckets are mostly outside waiting to be refilled so that they can have water. Sheep don't actually drink a lot of water. They would get through about 1 of these tiny buckets a day each. I was quite surprised at how little they actually needed to drink. Their water buckets were filled up twice a day and they also got fed twice a day, so the haylage twice and then 1 scoop of barley, wheat, oats and a bit of protein twice a day to make sure that they were getting everything that they needed. This sheep had it all sorted out. She had the big bale of haylage just outside her pen and she had to stay in the pen for about 4 days because she had a lamb being adopted onto her. So she was very happy indeed. This is one of a few pedigree sheep in this flock. This one is a Warbles. I was so pleased that this girl had her baby on camera. I had just walked into the shed, it was first thing in the morning, and I'd been dying to see one of these girls give birth. There were only 3 of them in the flock, so I'm so pleased I managed to catch it. How do you say it?
It's Warbles.
It's Warbles.
Z-W-A-R-T-B-L-E-N.
Yeah. On the whole, we like to leave them to give birth themselves. Naturally is obviously better, and you only intervene if you think there's something wrong or if the sheep seems to be struggling, and sometimes if there's only one and you need to check that there's another one, because if not then you can adopt one on, you check. Obviously if the sheep had been scanned we wouldn't have had to do that, but we mostly just left them alone. I wasn't watching my camera at this point, so that's why the angle keeps drifting up. I'm sorry about that. You can see that the lamb is only just out and it's already lifting its head. It's absolutely amazing. And she's obviously very tired, so she's just kind of lying there recovering a little bit. The umbilical cord at this point was still inside her, so the lamb is still getting a bit of oxygen from her because it's still attached to her. When the sheep stands up, the umbilical cord breaks naturally, and there's sort of a natural break point where that happens, so that all gets kind of sorted out itself. When the sheep stands up, she then licks the baby very, very thoroughly, first of all to get all of the gunk off it. It's born in its water sac, and she will generally eat the sac and then just lick it, which stimulates breathing and just gets the lamb going, makes it kind of think, oh okay, now I'm born, I should start living myself. She's a bit tired and the lamb does need to be given some attention, so Matt just went to help it stand up and make sure that she was licking the baby. You can see at the back there, it's kind of gross, but there's a second water bag coming through. Each lamb has its own water bag within the uterus, so every time a lamb is born, a water bag comes as well. They most often come first, but they sometimes come with the baby. There's no hard and fast rule about it. And now she's just going to lick the baby for a while until the next one comes. So I'm just coming to collect a pair of lambs that have been born in the shed and now going into the pens. Here they are. Ewes that are waiting to lamb can get very broody, so you can see one here wondering which is hers. You want to get them out before a ewe can steal another baby, and obviously also before the baby can get hurt by the other sheep that are parading around in the pen. Once they're in the individual pens, the ewes can clean them up a bit more, lick them a bit, and they can get their first milk, which is called colostrum. It's very thick and yellow, and it's full of antibodies, which just help to get the lamb's immune system kick-started. So we separate them out, and there they stay for about a day or so. This is our Zwarbles ewe moved into her pen. She had triplets in the end. What I'm doing here is just making sure that the lambs have a healthy start to life. So this is an antibiotic that you just squirt into their mouth. It makes sure that if there's anything in the lambing shed or in the pen, it gets picked up and sort of sorted out by that antibiotic. Now I'm dipping the umbilical cord in iodine, which just gets rid of any sort of bugs that are in there. It's an open wound, essentially, so you want to get rid of anything that could cause an infection there. That will kill a lamb very, very quickly. You can see that the umbilical cord hasn't really broken there, so I've just helped it along. It doesn't hurt the lamb at all. Everything's fine. Mum's quite concerned about what I'm doing. The mothers are very protective, so they just want to make sure that you're not damaging their babies. Some of them can get very, very aggressive. I had one in particular that basically kept headbutting me, which was awful. So here's the iodine, and then they've all got their antibiotic, and you can also see that they're steaming. We are essentially outside, so it was pretty cold. But they've had a good start, and you can see them getting up and getting ready to suckle. This is what I started calling the hospital box. Basically, it's a little box with an infrared lamp above it that is giving the lamb some heat. Sometimes they get a bit ill, or if the mother lies on them, they can get a bit weak and they need some extra help, and the heat just helps them along. The majority of births went very well and most of the lambs were healthy, but there were a few where they either had a difficult birth or the mother lay on them, or they just picked up an infection from somewhere and they needed a little bit of help, either from the heat lamp or from medication. I saw quite a few injections and a bit of force feeding to try get the lambs going. After the sheep have had their babies, they have to pass the placenta. So they basically get these long, bloody things falling out of them, and eventually the placenta passes and it gets disposed of. Adopting lambs onto sheep can be quite tricky, so ideally what you want to do is you want to catch a sheep that has one lamb and then rub another lamb that you've taken from somewhere else that needs adopting in the birth juices so that she thinks it's hers, and she licks those things off it, gets used to its smell and thinks that it's her baby. What you can see here is a sheep that's been tethered in the corner of the pen. She can stand up, lie down, eat, drink, she's happy, and the lamb with the red dots is not hers. That allows the lamb to suckle from her, which makes the front and the back smell like the mother and fools her into thinking that it's actually her baby. they get very aggressive and they can actually kill a lamb that they think isn't theirs. I actually saw one attacking one that was hers, but she thought it wasn't. So the tethering is a necessary part of the procedure. After a while they get so attached to those babies they'll essentially do anything for them. They become their own babies, and it means that the lamb has a sheep mother, which is always better. What you're about to see is an intervention. There's a sheep here lambing and she had been going for quite a while, and I was just walking around checking on her and I noticed that it wasn't all quite right. So when a baby comes out, it comes out feet first, and if it doesn't then the mother can have a bit of trouble. You should be able to see that that is just ahead. We ended up catching her and I called Matt and Martin over and they helped her to deliver. He's just pulled the leg out there, pulled both of them out and then delivered the lamb. This is not the same ewe, but I actually delivered these babies, so these two were mine, and I have to say it's disgusting but so rewarding. I really enjoyed it. This is the last stage of the process that I was involved in. So these ewes and their lambs are in holding pens where there's a few families together and they're just getting to know each other so that when they go out into the field they recognise each other. They live together for a few months and then they get weaned and separated and they go on to live their separate lives. There are a few other things I did that I didn't really record too much. I did quite a lot of bottle feeding. I did one night shift and I went and saw the rest of the farm. There was a calf born while I was here which I got to see. That was very exciting. There's just a lot of stuff that I didn't really get to film. There's a lot of mucking out that happens, a lot of lifting and carrying hay and straw, and just making sure that everybody is happy and healthy. I had a really good time and I learnt so much. It's been really difficult to condense all of my film down into just 12 minutes, but I think I've done it successfully. If you have any questions then do let me know. Give this video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. I had a wonderful time and I'm sure I will be videoing more stuff on a real life farm soon. Bye!